Look at that.
Hello there.
Wow.
Relaxing and sleeping over here. It was nice.
So Senator Roblin, Representative Gomberg, I was just explaining how we're trying to make all of this work with magic beans.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go and start some introductory remarks, but before I do, I'd be remiss if we didn't all wish Senator Roblin a very happy birthday today.
Very nice. Thank you. It's been one of those long, wonderful days for my birthday.
This was actually just a big surprise party, Senator.
There you go. That's perfect.
So, first of all, I was just welcoming the folks that are here live in Newport. We have a number of people from the school board, some school board candidates, our panel, and some folks from the Lincoln County Dems, and others that are, of course, very interested in education. And so I'm very grateful for everyone participating here. I'm the chair of the Lincoln County Democrats, and I was explaining that I'm a former actuary, technologist, and behavioral economist, so I'm typically the person that people try to avoid at any kind of social gatherings for fear of a 30-minute policy discussion. But first, I just wanted to let you know that we're going to be passing around some cards and pencils and asking if you have any questions for the panel or for Senator Roblin or Representative Gomberg. We'll try to get those in if we have time. The way that all of this evolved is we started in February with some informal gatherings and polls. And here in Lincoln County, education was a top issue. And so we recognized the need to not necessarily be partisan, but to structure a presentation that provides an overview, an integrated overview of early education through graduation from OCCC. And so we're going to get into the program in just a few minutes. The panel, when we started talking about this idea, was incredibly supportive. And while all of this was happening, of course, the state budget was in the news. And so all the confluence of these events actually made this a fairly important program. So I'm grateful for everyone being here. We know from an economic perspective that the recovery from our economic depression in 2008, 2009 has been slow and disproportionate in its impact. Our state and local budgets are still attempting to recover from severe cuts and losses, and that this impacts everything from education to infrastructure, public safety through retirement security. It touches all of us in many ways. And we know that we can't address years of shortfall and cuts across the board all at once. So all state and local government must prioritize its spending, and that's not an easy task. From our perspective, education is a societal imperative. It doesn't mean that our societal investment through taxes should blindly go into the education system. There must be efficiency and reasonable, less obtrusive ways to measure our return on investment. However, for the sake of this and future generations of Oregonians, we must start with a foundation of a well-educated populace. It's a foundation that makes all things possible. And so, again, a thank you to all that are here to support the program and learn more about the vision and challenges that we face here in Lincoln County. And I do hope you join me now in welcoming the panel. Again, very, very grateful to have Senator Roblin and Representative Gomberg with us. Senator Roblin, for those that don't know, was an educator himself for many years. He's chair of the Senate Committee on Education, and that both Representative Gomberg and Senator Roblin are members of the Joint Committee on Ways and Means. And I understand that you guys, this is a warm-up for you guys. You'll be out here on Tuesday evening, April 14th. And so thank you for that as well.
And George, let's just emphasize that for a minute. We are going to be in Lincoln City at the Cultural Center. That's the red brick old D Lake School, and we're going to be starting at 6:30. Anybody is welcome to attend. Anybody is welcome to present to the committee, but they are limiting presentations to 2 minutes each. So if you have a longer presentation, bring a couple of friends and spread it out amongst all of you, because you'll be limited to 2 minutes apiece.
I've been watching the auctioneers from Storage Wars, and so I'm trying to get a really rapid cadence, David.
Yeah, that's good.
So joining us here in Newport, I'm very, very pleased that I'm able to present to the live audience and Senator and Representative Suzanne Miller. Suzanne is the director of Lincoln County Head Start, which is part of the Community Services Consortium, which is a great organization that is working locally with many of our most economically vulnerable. And Suzanne will be presenting on early education, early childhood education, just to my left. And it's really hard to be just to my left, so that's great, Steve.
Always a second. Always a second.
So Steve is the Lincoln County Superintendent of K through 12, and Steve spent a great deal of time with me and explaining current challenges that the K through 12 in Lincoln County face with the present budget situation. And then Brigitte Reisling, to the left of Steve, is president of Oregon Coast Community College, and she has also shared time and explained a very exciting vision. And so without further ado of listening to my voice, Suzanne, I know you have a media presentation, and one thing I wanted to point out, and I don't know if Andy mentioned to you, Senator Roblin and Representative Homburg, but after we share the screen, Microsoft does some odd things, and so we'll probably have to reconnect a couple of different times. So bear with us.
So
He did explain that.
Very good.
So I'm on the extreme left, I guess.
So you are on. We can actually.
No, I'm good,
no,
I'm good.
You are. You're
I'm good.
You're there. Yep.
Just going with the metaphor.
Indeed.
There. When I was first invited, well, first of all, I'm grateful to be here, and thank you so much for the invitation. I was thinking back when I was in the 8th grade, and my girlfriend Gail Biscaglia said, "I think you should run for the president of the student body." Why? You know. And she said, "I'll run for vice president." I said, no, I'll run for vice president. Right. I was really kind of intimidated by the whole concept. No girl had ever done this, of course. So she convinced me, we ran, and nobody ran against us. So it was kind of an easy win. So, but it was only for half a year. I don't know why, but it was. So I had to sort of re-up. I had to get up there and try to fight for it again. And so I felt pretty good. I was running against Wayne Smaker. Wayne Smaker was a wonderful student, a terrific guy, but every time he got up to speak, he cried. I mean, I'm talking about from first grade, second grade. He'd get up there and he'd just cry. And so I thought, Wayne's going to get up there and he's going to cry. I mean, how could I lose? You know, so I kind of went up there feeling pretty good, and I didn't prepare. I thought, I'm just going to speak from my heart. And, well, I got there and I walked in the auditorium and I took a look around and I started to panic. I thought, oh, this feels really... And so Wayne went first, and Wayne got up there and didn't cry. And he was really well prepared. And he gave a stunning speech. I was mortified. And so I got up and started to cry. I'd never done that before. And I'm not much of a crier, but boy, I was just... And I'll never forget that. I always prepare now. So I'm prepared. Now, that being said, I don't have one of those great, screens that people read, so I have my notes. So I'm not going to always be looking at you. Forgive me in advance. I've got to check my notes. I tried to memorize it, but I can't trust that. So again, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here among friends. At Head Start, the children are immediately taught that all children are friends. The teachers are the big people, and still friends, but the children are friends. And so right away, we build empathy, we build trust, we're building bridges between the children. So if I'm angry at my friend and I bump you, it's like, oh, I bumped my friend, I'm really sorry. So friends. So it's good to be with friends. Now, that being said, and I just want to remember before I forget, if anyone here is from the 1%, Your children are not among our demographics. We don't serve your children. However, I'd be happy to meet with you after the presentation. We're looking for a sustaining donor, so please see me. Okay. So about 30 years ago, I read the work of a Dr. Alice Miller. She was a psychoanalyst. She was devoted to children and children's rights and children's well-being. So I wrote, and basically she's talking about how society treats children and the roots of violence. Her first book was The Drama of the Gifted Child, and I read that book, and I had to stay home for 2 days. I was so shocked and stunned. I felt that she had been writing my childhood experience, and she understood children so beautifully and so well. And I had to think about it. I literally did not leave my house for 2 days. I was young, you get extreme and emotional. And so I thought a lot about it, and I thought, this woman has it nailed. She's talking about the real life of children from the inside. She was so amazing. And she was pointing to a really simple question. How do we value and treat our children? And she gave some really simple pictures of seemingly ordinary circumstance where you see a child is not understanding what's going on, and in a sense, he's being sort of overlooked. And it wasn't even a serious one. We see a lot of those. So some 30 years later, it's gratifying to be here and to be invited to speak on behalf of the little guys, the little ones. It shows to me that there's change, and there's been change. It takes a long time. We know change takes forever. Even those of us who are change agents know it probably better than everybody else. So all of us are here, are part of that change. I mean, for early childhood to be invited to speak with you all is a great privilege, and it's so wonderful, so thank you. And now I know you're an informed group, and I know that you have read the most recent report from the United Nations on children's well-being, including education, which shows that the United States is far below where we should be. Far below, given our status as a world leader. And we have to ask ourselves, how did this happen? And what are we going to do about it? So we all know that outcomes depend on good beginnings. Outcomes depend on good beginnings. Failure always has its roots in the beginning of any endeavor. If you really look at it and you say, how did this happen? It happened to, sort of like my 8th grade speech. So I would like to begin the conversation by sharing a short video. And it's a wonderful video. I just fell in love with this video. This is out of Harvard University. It's Center on the Developing Child. It addresses core obstacles to successful child outcomes. It's a systems-based view of what's going on. And I'd like to share that tonight before I launch into what we do.
Very good. So I'm going to get that started, and after we start, we're probably going to have to reconnect, just to let you know. And to follow on briefly with the thought that Suzanne expressed on a conference call that I was on, and Governor Brown came into the call and spoke briefly. Education and early childhood education were two things within about 60 seconds that she said. And so she's pretty well focused with us in this room and on early childhood as well. So I'm going to get this started.
There you are.
Frozen.
Yeah.
The social challenges that face modern societies, whether it's the ability to work productively, to be a good citizen, stay healthy, have their roots in early health and development. A strong foundation in early childhood results in much better and more effective development later. A weak foundation really puts us behind. The most important thing children need to thrive is to live in an environment of relationships that begins in their family, but also extends out to include adults who are family members in child care centers and other programs. What children need is for that entire environment of relationships to be invested in their healthy development. We've shown from decades of testing interventions that we can improve outcomes. But the magnitude of those impacts is not good enough. Science is now available to help us think about what we might do that would have a bigger impact than the best of what we've done before. So we began to ask, what could we be doing differently? What could we do to be smarter? Children who are at the greatest risk for the poorest outcomes in learning and health and behavior are children who experience a pileup, a cumulative burden of one after another of risk factors. And then the burden is more than any child could be expected to overcome. So we began to focus on the development of the adults. What could we be doing to strengthen the capacity of everyone who interacts with children? This led us to think about the kinds of skills you need to deal with adversity. These skills of focusing attention, planning, monitoring, delaying gratification, being able to solve problems, being able to work in teams, executive function and self-regulation. They're also the kind of skills you need to create a well-regulated home and school environment in which healthy development and learning can take place. And then brain science started to tell us that differences in those skills start to develop in infancy based on the environment kids live in. So how do those skills get built? Well, if you don't develop them early, how do you develop them later? Actually, you can build them later because the period of flexibility and plasticity for this part of the brain doesn't fully mature until age 25 to 30. So then the light bulb went on. The reason we're not getting a bigger impact is not because we don't know about how to influence development, but because we're giving information and advice to people who we need to do active skill building with. Skill building by coaching, by training, by practice, but we're not doing that. So we now have developed this theory of change that says we need to focus on the development of the adults who are important in kids' lives.
So try this.
How does that work?
That's a new idea. Buen trabajo.
We need to focus on their skills, their needs, in order for them to be better, more effective parents, in order for them to be better prepared to be employable, which would enhance the economic stability of the family, which is also good for children. Second of all, we looked at many people in preschool programs and childcare centers. And we said, what are we doing to build those skills in the providers? They need skill building as well. And also the community can help to build and reinforce the capacities that parents need. And the community also includes programs in which the people who work in the programs have sufficient skills. Third of all, what are the major sources of toxic stress in this community, and how can we reduce them? Moving it up to a policy level, how are our policies strengthening communities' abilities to reduce source of toxic stress and caregivers' abilities to provide what kids need? The development of our human capital is our future. The development of a productive workforce is our future. The development of a healthy population is our future. This kind of future orientation is critical for healthy society. It's critical for a thriving business. It's critical for successful environmental relationships to raise children. It's all about being able to plan for the future, to have a future. And that's why this is so important.
So I think we're going to need to reconnect.